Yo, it's me, Style Redefined. I am the Stylesman, and this time you're looking at the treasure trove that everyone has been waiting for. The Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge tutorial series. Now, first and foremost, before you look at this series, it's highly recommended that you go and check out my other tutorial series for Ninja Gaiden 1 and Ninja Gaiden 2. Ninja Gaiden Sigma, Ninja Gaiden Black, Ninja Gaiden 2004, and the tutorials for Ninja Gaiden 2 and Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2. Also applies to Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2 Black. A lot of those tutorials are still going to apply here, but what we have here is a whole new beast. In order to play Ninja Gaiden 3 correctly, you kind of need to forget the ways and the methods that you have been playing Ninja Gaiden 2 and the previous game. The entire system here has been completely reworked, with whole new mechanics. Though many of the things and mechanics still apply to this game, you can't exactly utilize them in the same manner that you have been in previous Ninja Gaiden games. This is the mistake that everyone makes, and this is the reason why people dislike NG3 combat the most. Not because it's bad, but because it's different, and people have failed to realize and understand that Ninja Gaiden 3 is just played differently. It's different in how it's used, it's different in how the mechanics are used, and it's different in a lot of areas. And in order to really maximize your time and fun with Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge, then you need to be able to accept that. And that's exactly why I've made this series. So, buckle down, it's time for what you've all been waiting for. This right here is the treasure trove, yeah? So what? Let's get to it. So, let's talk about combos. In Ninja Gaiden 3, you're going to be encountering massively long combo lists. But don't get intimidated, because in reality, when you understand these combos, it's actually very simple to break down. And you'll notice that a lot of the combo patterns carry through every single weapon and every single character that you are available to play as in Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge. So let's now start talking about some of these combos and some terms, what things that they mean, and the indications that they give. So of course the game features your normal light attacks and heavy attacks. On the Xbox controller, they will be indicated with the X button. Those will be your light attacks, and Y button will be your heavy attacks, just like in the previous Ninja Gaiden games. So you will see the term labeled air next to some listed combos. This means that this combo has the ability to launch your character into the air, and leads to a potential air combo. And then you will see that some combos have the term drop listed next to them. This means that if your character is in the air and there are no enemies present while you are in the air, then this combo will cause your character to drop back down to the ground. And then some combos will have the term throw listed next to them. This means that the combo has a special finisher which acts like a grab move. These grabs usually involve having invincibility frames as well. So now with some combos you would see 3 dots listed at the end of the combo. And these 3 dots indicate a potential combo that this combo could possibly lead up to. These combos are listed in the combo list, and we will get to them. Then you will see an arrow indication before a certain attack in some of these combos. This arrow is an indication for you to move the left analog stick in the direction of the opponent as you are inputting that certain command. And then you would see an arrow pointing down on a button for some of these combos. This arrow means that this is a hold attack. Then you'll notice some circular arrows listed in some of these combos. you will need to spin the left analog stick in a 360 motion before inputting these attack commands. And finally, we have the dots appearing at the beginning of these combos. The combos that can be performed after the 3 dots are shown here. Then you have the different states of when these combos are performed. You'll notice that at the top of the list it says the word standing. This means that these combos are performed when your character is in a standing state. Then you'll see the term running. This means that these combos are performed when your character is in a running state. Then you'll see the term standing jump. This means that these combos are performed when your character is performing a neutral jump. Then you have running jump. These are combos that can be performed whilst your character is performing a moving jump. Then you'll see the term sliding. These are combos that can be performed from a sliding maneuver. Then you'll notice the term sliding hit. These are combos that are performed when performing a special move known as a tackle, and we will cover tackles later on in this series. Landing. So these are combos that can be performed the moment your character lands from the air. Wall jump. When performing a horizontal wall run, you can jump from the horizontal wall run. That's when these particular combos will be performed. Then for some combos you'll see the term wall run. This means that these combos will be performed whilst performing the wall run. Then you'll see the heading flying swallow blocked. So when performing flying swallow against an opponent, they have a chance to actually block your flying swallow. But if your flying swallow is blocked, these are the follow-ups that you can perform the moment that your flying swallow attack is blocked by the enemy. Flying bird flip. So these combos can be performed the moment that your character performs a flying bird flip from the wall. Then you will see in the word sabaki. Sabaki just basically means counter-attack. So this time let's talk about the ultimate technique and the changes that have been made to the ultimate technique in this game. First difference is that in this game the ultimate technique now has 3 levels of charge, whereas in the previous game there was only 2 levels of charge. The level of charge that you have available for a certain weapon all depends on the level that the weapon currently is. Level 1 weapons will only be able to charge 1 level of ultimate technique. Level 2 weapons will be able to charge up to 2 levels of ultimate technique. And level 3 weapons will be able to charge to the highest level of level 3 ultimate techniques. In this game, the essence has now been removed, meaning that you are no longer able to instantly charge your ultimate technique mid-combat. However, this game does have a new mechanic where if you kill a certain amount of enemies, you are able to instantly charge your ultimate technique level. This will be indicated by the fact that your weapon may be glowing red or your arm may be glowing red if you are playing the campaign mode. This instant UT charge will be acquired the moment you defeat 8 enemies. Once you have unlocked the instant UT charge, there will be a massive damage increase as opposed to just charging your ultimate technique manually. In this game you also have the ability to charge your ultimate technique mid-combo. You can charge your ultimate technique mid-combo by using the special hold attacks that the game now enables you to do. The ultimate technique can also be readily used when landing from an Izuna drop. The Shuriken Cancel in this game has also had a complete overhaul. Previously in Ninja Gaiden games, the main weapons that could be Shuriken Cancelled were the Dragon Sword and the Dual Katana. But in this game, everything has been completely reworked to the point where Shuriken cancelling is now consistent and applicable for every single character and weapon in this game except Ayane. Ayane has a different technique which is similar to Shuriken Cancel, called Kunai Tempest, and we'll cover this later in the tutorial. There are certain patterns to understand when it comes to Shuriken Cancel in this game, and I'll explain those now. Every single light attack can be Shuriken cancelled in this game. Every single neutral heavy attack can be Shuriken cancelled. Every single launcher hold attack can be Shuriken cancelled. Every XXY attack can be Shuriken cancelled. The heavy attack of this 3-hit string can always be Shuriken cancelled. And air combos can be Shuriken cancelled, just as you could in previous games. This game features a new mechanic called Steel on Bone. During your combat encounters, you will come across some enemies that will start glowing red just as they're about to attack you. This indicates that they're about to do a very powerful attack. Sometimes these attacks are unblockable. You are able to dodge these attacks, and the moment you dodge them, you are able to counter-attack with a heavy attack. When doing this, you perform a special technique known as Steel on Bone. When your weapon connects with the enemy, the camera begins to zoom in. During this moment, press the heavy attack button once again and you are able to instantly finish off the enemy. If you react too late, then the enemy will deal massive damage to you. Performing this technique will also restore some of your health. Steel on Bone techniques can also be chained one after another. The higher your weapon level, the more Steel on Bone techniques you can chain together. At level 1, you are able to chain 2 Steel on Bones. At level 2, you are able to chain 3, and at level 3, you are able to chain the maximum of 4. Ki is another thing that has been reworked in this game. In this game, you no longer have multiple charges of ki or multiple storage of ki, but a single bar. The amount of ki that you can store is all dependent on the Ninpo that you currently have selected. Ki is used for Ninpo in this game, as well as some other special techniques that we will cover later on in this video. To gain ki, you have to hit enemies. You gain a small amount of ki for every single hit that you do against an enemy. Gaining ki per hit means that weapons with higher hit frequencies have the ability to gain ki much more quickly, such as the Luna, or the Dual Katana, or the Kusarigama as a few examples. Performing finishing moves also restores a larger amount of ki, so moves like obliteration techniques or Steel on Bone attacks. The Ninpo also returns to Ninja Gaiden 3, though there are a few changes when it comes to how Ninpo is handled. Similar to Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2, Ryu Hayabusa has the selection of multiple Ninpo, whereas the female characters only have accessibility to a single Ninpo. Also, this time around, Ninpo can only be upgraded through the upgrade screen. There are no longer multiple Ninpo charges or the ability to store multiple Ninpo in this game. Instead, what you will need to do is fill the entire key bar for you to use your Ninpo. Using Ninpo will take up the entire key bar. And just like in Ninja Gaiden 2, you have the ability to auto-aim your Ninpo. To be able to aim your Ninpo manually by moving the left analog stick as you are utilizing your Ninpo. With the new addition of being able to actually release your Ninpo early by inputting the Ninpo command as you are using your Ninpo, you are able to shoot your Ninpo earlier than its intended usage time. And finally, hitting enemies with Ninpo restores your health. Dash Cancel is now the new fastest form of movement in Ninja Gaiden 3. There is one method of movement which is even faster than dash cancelling, which is reserved for Ayane, but we will get to that later. To perform the dash cancel, input the slide command. Thereafter, release the block button and input the slide command again. By doing this, you'll be able to chain multiple slides together, and this is how you perform the dash cancel. You cannot hold the block button while doing the dash cancel. You must release the block button after every single slide. If performed and timed correctly, then you'll be able to chain multiple slides one after the other. A new thing that's available to do in Ninja Gaiden 3 is the ability to just dodge. There are certain instances where if you perform a dodge with the correct timing, you are able to perform the just dodge. You will know when you have performed the just dodge correctly because there is an after image of your character when the dodge is performed. The just dodge technique is oddly exclusive to a small handful of weapons. The 3 instances that I'm aware of where you are able to just dodge are the following: killing an enemy with the bow in mid-air and inputting the slide command as soon as you hit the ground, performing a dodge the moment you complete a SOB attack, a steel on bone attack, and after performing a wind path redirect. The wind path redirect is a new technique for Ninja Gaiden 3, which we will cover later. Just dodging is only possible with a wind path redirect, not the normal wind path. Also, by just dodging the wind path redirect, it allows you to quickly descend to the ground. The neutral heavy is a special technique that has been introduced to Ninja Gaiden 3. To perform the neutral heavy, hold down the heavy attack button and release before charging one level of your ultimate technique. I have given this attack the name neutral heavy because it's a heavy attack which is usually performed from a neutral position. Neutral heavies can also be performed from an obliteration technique or a steel on bone technique by holding down the heavy attack button during the entire obliteration technique or steel on bone technique animation. By holding down the heavy attack button, you'll notice your character transitioning into the neutral heavy stance the moment they complete the obliteration technique or the steel on bone technique. You can also enter the neutral heavy stance when landing by holding down the heavy attack button the moment you land. The neutral heavy stance can also be entered when landing from an Izuna. Neutral heavy attacks when connected with a de-limbed enemy will allow you to instantly obliterate them. Neutral heavy attacks can be Shuriken cancelled. The neutral heavy attacks have high de-limb potential. This simple technique can make all the difference in your gameplay, and neutral heavy becomes a bridge to learning many other advanced techniques that this game has to offer. Obliteration techniques return to Ninja Gaiden 3. There are a few differences in how the obliteration techniques are applied in this game. The obliteration technique that you perform on an enemy varies depending on what side of the enemy you are on. Either the front, the back, the left side or the right side may cause you to perform a different type of obliteration technique. When the enemy is downed by delimbing their leg, you perform a different type of OT. The type of attack that you use to hit a delimbed enemy with changes the type of OT that you perform. Delayed obliteration techniques also make a return to Ninja Gaiden 3. Something new that you can do in Ninja Gaiden 3 with the help of the neutral heavy technique is the Obliteration Chain. Obliteration chaining allows you to obliterate multiple delimbed enemies in a single combo. To perform the Obliteration Chain, begin by obliterating an enemy. During the obliteration technique, hold down the heavy attack button. This will allow you to immediately transition into the neutral heavy stance the moment you finish the obliteration technique. Thereafter, release the heavy attack button, and you want your character to be directed towards the next delimbed enemy. By doing this, you will instantly obliterate the next delimbed enemy. Then, during that next obliteration, hold down the heavy attack button to once again transition yourself into the neutral heavy stance. Release and aim at the next delimbed enemy. Rinse and repeat. By doing this, you will be able to obliterate multiple enemies in a single combo sequence. This is what I call the Obliteration Chain. Some weapons for Ryu and all the girls will allow you to perform a neutral heavy mid-combo by holding down the heavy attack button. If this attack connects against a delimbed enemy, then they get obliterated. So if you manage to delimb an enemy and want to finish them off mid-combo, just hold down the heavy attack button to enter neutral heavy stance, release and slice the enemy up. The weapons that can transition into the neutral heavy stance mid-combo are the dual katana, the kusari gama, and the Luna. Whereas all the girls, Momiji, Kasumi, and Ayane, have the ability to transition into the neutral heavy stance mid-combo. Some weapon attacks have multiple hits in a single move. This also applies to some neutral heavy attacks. If a neutral heavy attack manages to connect with the same enemy twice with one attack, then there is a chance to instantly kill the enemy. I call this technique the instant obliteration. An example is with the kusari gama. The neutral heavy hits the target, causing them to be delimbed while the weapon is still inside them. This counts as 2 hits. The first hit delimbs the enemy, whilst the second hit becomes the OT, making 2 hits look like 1 hit and instantly finishing off an enemy. Weapons with higher hit frequencies like the Luna, Kusari Gama, Dual Katana and Ayane's Fumakodachi are more likely to have the instant obliteration chance. Other weapons, as well as the 2 other girls, Momiji and Kasumi, have the chance to instant obliterate an enemy, but it's less likely. Some startups to obliteration techniques have unique moves. If this unique move manages to accidentally hit an enemy that isn't delimbed, then there is a chance to instantly kill that enemy. I call this the switch obliteration. It's a glitch without question, but a very cool glitch. And who knows, maybe one day you might be able to manipulate it to your liking. Alright, so here's a cool bonus. In this game you have the chance to finish off enemies twice by performing 2 finishing moves on the same enemy, though I've only managed to record this a handful of times as I was doing it. Here's a few examples that I can show you. One example can be using your fire Ninpo as Ryu against an enemy, then catch up to them and perform the obliteration technique on them. That way you can perform an obliteration technique on the enemy's burning dead corpse. Or with Ayane, you can perform 2 obliteration techniques on the same enemy. To do this, perform Ayane's decapitation obliteration technique. On landing, enter the neutral heavy stance and direct yourself towards the enemy that you've just obliterated. So that way you can slice up his body even more. It's definitely a really humiliating way to take enemies down, but it's a lot of fun. Besides looking cool, this surprisingly does have another purpose to it. By using this tactic, you are able to actually squeeze as much ki out of an enemy as possible. Projectile weapons make a return to Ninja Gaiden 3 with some new additions and changes. When aiming your projectile weapon in the midst of combat, you immediately snap towards the closest target with a projectile weapon now. While aiming your projectile weapon, you can also begin charging. Charging the bow for Ryu allows you to shoot 2 targets at once. You are also able to shoot projectile weapons like the bow in mid-air, just as you were able to in previous Ninja Gaiden games. And don't forget that landing from shooting the bow in mid-air will cause your character to land in a running state, whereas throwing Shuriken in mid-air and landing will cause your character to land in a standing state. One thing that the game doesn't tell you is the ability to slow down time when you aim. While aiming, click the right analog stick to zoom in and slow down time. This slowdown will allow you the time you need to aim for an enemy's weak point. A cool new addition in this game is the ability to manually aim your bow in mid-air. This move is called Falcon's Eye and is exclusive to bow-only users. By expending some ki, you are able to aim your bow in mid-air. This allows you to snap your crosshair towards the closest ranged target in mid-air. Falcon's Eye can be performed from various aerial states like wall jumps, normal jumps, air combos, wind path, block flying swallow, and more. The double aerial arrow is a technique which I believe is exclusive to Ryu Hayabusa for some weapons. This technique allows you to shoot 2 arrows in mid-air. To perform the double aerial arrow, fire an arrow in mid-air, then press the heavy attack button. Immediately after pressing the heavy attack button, fire another arrow. In order for this technique to work, an enemy must be present. If performed successfully, then you'll be able to shoot 2 arrows in mid-air. In the game, there are 3 ways to drastically increase your projectile weapon firing rate while aiming. The first method is to input a slide after every arrow shot. This is the slowest method of the 3. The second method is to press the block button after firing each arrow. This is the second fastest method. The final and fastest method is to hold the left stick in a direction the entire time during this method. whilst holding the left analog stick in one direction. Follow this sequence. Aim the bow, fire. Release aim, aim again, fire. Release aim, aim, fire. Release aim, aim, fire. Rinse and repeat. Some animations can be cancelled simply by aiming the bow. Honestly, I've not experimented much with the bow cancel. From what I can gather, its usage is rather limited, but can be a tiny bit useful for making more combos. One example of the bow cancel is aiming the bow after throwing the Shuriken. It cancels the recovery animations of throwing a Shuriken. So it's like cancelling a cancel. You're using the bow cancel to cancel out the animation for the Shuriken cancel. This allows you to neutral jump just slightly faster after throwing a Shuriken. Maybe you could discover some more things using the bow cancel. The 360 Heavy is a special attack that allows you to perform a 360 on the ground. By holding the heavy attack button, you can transition from the 360 Heavy straight to neutral heavy stance. And this works for every single weapon and character. The cool thing about 360 Heavy is that there is an air variant. If you were to land and perform the 360 Heavy with these three weapons, the single katana, the Falcon's Talons, and the scythe for Ryu Hayabusa, then performing the 360 Heavy on landing will allow you to shoot back into the air. You can perform the 360 Heavy air when landing from any aerial state. This includes dropping from an air combo, wind path, normal jumping, wall jumps, bird flips, a blocked flying swallow, even landing from an Izuna. Some grounded 360 Heavy attacks have iframes, if not all of them, but every single 360 Heavy air variant has iframes. You can even cancel the 360 Heavy air variants simply by pressing the jump button near an enemy. This allows you to cancel the 360 Heavy air with a vertical wind path. You can also chain multiple 360 Heavy air attacks this way, since you can perform 360 Heavy air from wind path, making you completely invincible. The Izuna Cancel allows you to cancel the recovery animation when performing any Izuna. This works for every weapon and character except the dual katana. To perform the Izuna Cancel, simply press a directional light attack the moment you smash an enemy against the ground. Now for something really cool. A technique I call the Izuna Chain. We are going to use our knowledge and application of 360 Heavy air and Izuna Cancel to now chain multiple Izunas in a single sequence. After performing an Izuna, perform a 360 Heavy air on landing to lead another enemy into an air combo, then Izuna him. Then perform the Izuna Cancel the moment your enemy smashes into the ground to lead another enemy into an air combo and then Izuna him. With these techniques you can now chain multiple Izunas together with whatever method you like. So how many Izunas can you chain? A new addition to Ninja Gaiden 3 is the ability to Cicada Surge for Ryu. By expending some ki, you are able to avoid any melee attack on the ground with the correct timing. This allows you to teleport behind an enemy and begin your counter-attack or retreat. To Cicada Surge, press the block and jump buttons the moment you are about to be hit. Time it too early and you'll be left vulnerable. The Cicada Surge does not work against projectile attacks. If you manage to surge an enemy's heavy attack, then you can counter-attack with a heavy attack of your own for an instant SOB. Four Rings is a new move exclusive to Ryu, allowing him to throw Shuriken in all directions. It's a great way to stun as well as reveal all nearby enemies. It will not stun armored enemies until they are weakened first. Four Rings auto-tracks all nearby enemies and projectiles. Four Rings can also be performed on landing. You have the ability to cancel your wind run only with the Talons. Perform a wind run, then quickly hold the heavy attack button. If performed correctly, you will cancel your jump and stand in neutral heavy stance. This allows quick charging of UTs as if you are charging UT on landing. The Wind Path Redirect is an evolution of the Wind Path. Before, in previous Ninja Gaiden games, performing the Wind Path caused you to always jump off an enemy and end up behind them. In Ninja Gaiden 3, however, you now have the choice to jump in any direction you desire. Simply perform a Wind Path and then input the direction that you want your character to end up in. There is another variant of Wind Path which I call the Wind Pounce. It's basically a wind path but with most of your momentum stopped, causing you to travel a short distance from the enemy. To perform a Wind Pounce, go for a Wind Path and slide your thumb from the jump button to the Shuriken button or Kunai button while holding a direction. If done properly, you can stop most of your momentum to stay close to the target you jump off of. Another variant of the Wind Path is the Wind Path Cancel. This variant allows you to completely stop your momentum, allowing you to freeze in mid-air. To perform the Wind Path Cancel, perform a Wind Path and then input a direction after you jump off the enemy by pressing the Shuriken button. If timed right, you can even stop right above the enemy's head. You are able to perform a flying swallow after throwing 4 Shuriken in mid-air for every weapon and character that has the flying swallow as part of its core move list. Just keep the left stick facing a direction as you throw the 4 Shuriken and then input the flying swallow. This technique is also possible in Ninja Gaiden 2 and Sigma 2 only with the Dragon Sword. The Infinite Flying Swallow is a technique reserved for the dual katana. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but I think it works due to having 2 blades. The 2 blades work as 2 hits rather than 1. In any case, if you hit 2 enemies, one who is blocking and one who is open with a single flying swallow, you have the chance to repeat the flying swallow as many times as you want. Or just spam flying swallow with the dual katana and see how long you can stay in the air for. Divine Swallow is a move reserved for the single katana. It has some interesting features and effects depending on the situation. One instance is a move I call Divine Swallow Ascension, where I gain altitude with each flying swallow. I won't mention everything you can do with it, as I'm sure I've yet to understand it, but just know that it's something worth mentioning here. Counterattacks return to Ninja Gaiden with not much changing. Only difference is that a light counterattack will cause you to perform a grounded counter, whilst a heavy counterattack will cause you to perform a launcher for every weapon and character. The launcher though is unfortunately unreliable, because at times even with a successful launcher you may take damage, which is probably a glitch. Even with your guard broken, you still have the ability to buffer a counter attack. If you ever do have your guard broken, then consider this another line of defense for yourself in Ninja Gaiden 3. Running attack cancel is a technique reserved for the single katana. The first 2 light attack hits can be cancelled with a launcher attack. You can either cancel the first or second light attack. Performing this technique against a de-limbed enemy will allow a smooth OT. Tackle is a new ability in Ninja Gaiden 3. To tackle an enemy, wait for them to perform a heavy attack, then either slide or perform a light attack in their direction to knock the enemy off balance. Then you slide into the enemy again to knock them into the air. This is what I call the tackle. From here you can immediately follow up with a heavy attack for an SOB, or use the sliding hit combos, which will now become available. The Falcon's Talons has an interesting technique where you can teleport to more opponents than intended. To do this, keep mashing the block button while aiming at other targets whilst performing the UT. This includes both the auto charge UT and manually charging the UT. Demon Cutter returns as an exclusive technique for the Kusarigama, though the only difference now is that it has lost its consistency with smaller enemies. While it still has a greater chance of gripping and pulling in lesser enemies, armored enemies must be weakened now for it to work. You can now also perform Demon Cutter with every heavy attack combo. A new ability added is Meditation, which allows you to heal your character by using Ki. Its application is not viable mid-combat, however there is another way it can be used. By performing meditation, this normally causes enemies to perform a heavy attack against you. This can be exploited for easy SOB kills. The Infinite Air combo is a technique exclusive to the Kusarigama. Though if you have reached a point in the game where you have unlocked explosive arrows, then this technique would be close to impossible. Start by launching an enemy into the air, followed by this sequence: light attack, bow, shuriken, heavy attack, light attack, bow, shuriken, heavy attack, light attack, bow, shuriken, and repeat. If performed successfully, then you can go as high as you like before landing a huge Izuna, if you want to finish it that way. So, how high can you go? Fireball is a defensive mechanism for Momiji, which damages the opponent and has iframes. It can also be used as an offensive tactic to help cancel out of any move. To activate Fireball, press the block button and the shuriken button at the same time. You'll know when you have enough ki to activate the Fireball, with your ki meter beginning to glow orange. Kunai Tempest is an upgrade for Kasumi, which allows her to charge her kunai in both aim mode and outside aim mode on the ground. While outside aim mode, Kunai Tempest acts like the windmill Shuriken in application. Kunai Tempest can be activated normally by holding down the Shuriken button, and can also be activated on landing to cancel out starting frames. Kunai Tempest can also be charged manually, like the ultimate technique. If you have an ultimate technique charged from defeating enemies, the Kunai Tempest can also be instantly charged with greater attack power. Sakura Madoi is basically Kasumi's version of Cicada Surge. Only difference is that Cicada Surge does not work against projectiles, while Sakura Madoi does. Ukifune is a special grab move for Kasumi. On hitting an enemy, including a blocking enemy, press block plus Shuriken at the same time to throw them into the air. From there you can perform an SOB or choose a follow-up of your liking. The move as well, I believe, has iframes. Ayane cannot Shuriken cancel, but she has another move called IS Cancel, Incendiary Shuriken Cancel, which acts like a Shuriken Cancel counterpart. It might seem a bit tricky, but it's pretty simple once you understand it. Basically, we throw an Incendiary Shuriken to cancel the recovery frames of one animation. Thereafter, we input another animation, we input another move, quick enough before Ayane throws the Incendiary Shuriken. This is how skilled players can link multiple of Ayane's movements together or reset her combos. This also applies to her slide, combining Incendiary Shuriken cancelling to cancel out of the slide, and then using slide to cancel out of the Incendiary Shuriken. This is the fastest form of movement in the game. It can be tricky and takes a bit of practice to get. Any attack that can be Shuriken cancelled can be IS cancelled. With a charged ultimate technique, it can also amplify charged projectiles in aim mode. This greatly increases attack power as well as multiply the amount of targets that can be hit with a single charged arrow. I call this the ultimate arrow. And that concludes this series. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it very useful. As you can see, there's many different things that have been improved and that are available in this game. If you guys have found this useful, then please support me as well. Yeah, the more support that you guys give, the more things I can do like this. Alright, please support me by investing in me. Yeah, please support me by following me on my socials. Please support me by sharing this with other people and sharing all my other work as well. Hopefully this series will help you guys to understand the greatness of this game. This game is highly underrated, and by seeing all of these different things that you can do in this game, I hope that you can start appreciating this game more for what it is. Take care of yourselves, guys, and don't forget, style redefined.